Hello, this is Julie Cohen, and this is the Work Life Leader Live Chat, Leadership Chat. I'm excited today. I have a great guest that I'm going to introduce in a minute, but wanted to welcome you here. It's live now. Today is, I'm just looking at my calendar. It is Thursday, October 22nd, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you're here live watching us, please put in the comments, say hello, and put hashtag live. As you know, if you've watched previously, and if you haven't, I am Julie Cohen, CEO of Work Life Leader. It's a training, executive coaching, and leadership development organization. And this platform, Work Life Leader Chat, is an opportunity to talk about issues related to leadership, work-life balance, professional effectiveness, basically the world of work and how we develop great leaders, great professionals, and great organizations. Besides Work Life Leader Chat, where I'm having interesting conversations with really smart people, we also have the Work Life Leader Live book group that will be coming up soon, as well as a Work Life Leader Live coaching, where I'll be coaching people real time on this platform. So with no further ado, I want to introduce my guest today. Let me add John to the stream. John Malanowski. Hi, John.
Hi, Julie. How are you today?
I'm great. So let me introduce you. I had to really, trim down this great bio, but I'm going to read all the wonderful things about you. So John Malanowski is a consulting global human resources executive who specializes in working with early stage startup companies in accelerating operational performance and organizational effectiveness. He has extensive experience building business-driven workforce programs and talent strategies in multinational corporations, entrepreneurial technology, and human capital intensive businesses. So that's kind of the awesome, very brief bio. I'll just share how I got to meet you. It was through cold call business development via LinkedIn, and obviously something I said made you respond. And I just feel so fortunate that, and that happened probably over a year ago. We've had this opportunity just to have multiple chats over the year, and I feel like I have a new friend. So it's great to see you again and have you here.
Thank you. No, I feel the same. Thank you. No, I appreciate you asking me to be part of this, and we'll continue the conversation as we go.
Yeah, so that gives us a really nice segue. Thank you. And you were not scripted to do that, but today's conversation is called, the topic for today, we're calling it bots, human resources, and coaching. And this sprung out of a conversation John and I had, I think it was last month. We were just touching base and not really even sure how we got on the topic, but I think we must have seen something in the news. The conversation went on a tangent, and we both realized how both of our fields, me as someone who owns an executive coaching and training business, and you as a very experienced global CHRO, bots and technology is changing our businesses. And so we started talking, and we figured we'd continue the conversation.
Yeah, no, that's great. And one of the organizations that I've been talking to, just, we all talk to many people over the course of the day, and, bots, to talk about bots for a minute, just to elaborate on that piece. And we were talking about bots, but then I was talking to the CEO of a firm who was actually thinking about extending bots into coaching, but also EAP. And so that opens up interesting opportunities for a great conversation.
Yes.
How far do bots go, and how do we leverage technology for all the good things that it has to offer? But then what's the right application of the technology too.
Yeah. So let's get started. I want to just kind of reintroduce the topic, and anyone who's watching this either live or even if you're watching it later, it's not live. Right now you're live if you're watching this on Thursday, October 22nd at 4:30-ish afternoon on Eastern Standard Time. So if you're here, I see we have a couple guests already who've said hello. Bill Hyman, hello. Sarah Vita, nice, glad you're here. We want to hear your questions, your comments, your experience about bots. If you're using them, whether you're in the coaching world, in the human resources space, or anywhere, we'd love to hear how you're using it, what's working, what's not working. If you're not using them and you're concerned about them, or you want to learn more, we want to talk to you. Now, neither John or I are not experts in bot technology, but we are talking about how it's going to impact the profession and what we've seen already. So, John, why don't we both start? You go first. Do you want to just share an example of how you have, professionally or personally have interacted with bots in kind of your world?
Sure. No, I'd be glad to. We all interact with bots. If we're buying something online, you see hey, can we help you on the website, right? Yeah. So that's a bot. But one of my best examples is my last role as a CHRO of a healthcare administration company. I actually implemented bot technology to help with benefit enrollment. And the bot technology that we used was simple, it was fun, it was easy, and it helped lead people through making the decision for their family about what benefit plan they should enroll in. It wasn't the typical legal language. The bot came on and said, "Hey, John, thank you for signing in today. I know that your current coverage is married with family, and let's talk about what you're trying to accomplish with the enrollment this year. Let's talk about changes to your family status. Let's talk about changes." And so it kind of led you through a conversation. Again, it was a lot of fun. It was a little character that helped us. And then narrowed down the choices that I was presented with. Showed me opportunities to save money, showed me opportunities to compare plans, but it was in a fun way. And, the enrollment was handled primarily online. We did some face-to-face sessions just because that was the nature of who we were as an organization, but it really helped speed up enrollment, got some great feedback. People actually understood their benefits, and there were some tutorials as well. It was very well done. As we walked through it, you had an option to learn more about that specific plan item. So there was a tutorial on, healthcare spending accounts. So it was a blast. And that's great. I'll shut up, but it was a really good example of
where it worked.
How it worked. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, we'll talk a little later about the repercussions, kind of the good and the bad. It's funny when you shared that. My age might be showing. I don't know if you remember, I guess it was a Microsoft tool. When you would go in the old Microsoft, you would start a Word document, and it was when this technology was new. This little clip thing, this little paper clip would pop up, and it would ask you if you needed help writing a document. Do you remember that?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
That was like a bot, right? Was that the first? I don't know if that's the first bot technology, or that's one at least I remember that had to be at least 20 years ago, I think.
Yeah, that was a precursor to bots because it led you to their help screen, I think.
Yeah. No, that's right. Because it would say, "Are you writing a business letter? Are you writing this?" And there's this little paper clip.
Right.
So I'll share. So that's a great example of a bot, in the HR space, in benefits. In the coaching world, as an executive coach, there are now many companies, startups, small tech companies that are looking to replicate the interaction between coach and client, and that benefit of having someone available 24 hours a day instead of just during your coaching session or via email, that can help you facilitate greater self-awareness, behavior change, goal accomplishment. A personal example for me is it was an app I used. It's called, well, actually I won't use the name. But it's an app that was about, kind of eating healthy and, exercising. And it was interesting when it started because it said, oh, you get your own health coach. And so I kind of did this more as a kind of, marketing research to see what's out there and how, this app is going to do coaching. And in the beginning, I had to plug in my information, and then it said, what do you eat? What are your goals? And it looked like I was having a conversation with someone. And at one point I was like, is this a real person? Because there was a face that was a human and she had a name. And then I did ask one question and her answer didn't feel personal. Like the other ones, it was very data driven. And then I expanded my answer more and gave more details, and it felt very inauthentic. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, this isn't a real person. But it had me tricked for like 4 or 5 back and forth. I was like, oh, I'm not sure. So that was just, a personal recent example. But, for those first 4 interactions, it was pretty seamless. We were having a back and forth that seemed very accurate. But I think it was because I stayed in the data parameters. But as soon as I stepped out, it was off. So
I get it. In fact, I'll date myself a little bit. Back in the day, as we all like to say, there used to be real humans behind those interactions on email. And I knew a couple of them. And I mean, imagine 50 emails coming in all at one point in time, and you're trying to coach people through emails. It was just impossible. And I think that led to a lot of really smart people really making advances in machine learning and natural language processing just to automate it.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that, if I can, I was talking to a coach the other day and said, so tell me, what do you think about bots and coaching? And he said to me after an interesting conversation a little bit, he said, at the end of the day, if I boil it all down, at the end of the day, it's really hard to develop trust with a bot. And, depending upon the nature of the coaching assignment, you could have hey, I'm struggling with this problem, or, I'm looking for some learning to help me develop XYZ skills.
Right.
That a bot, I think, could handle.
Yeah.
But if you're a person struggling with a real live business or developmental issue in the business, how do I get that sounding board? Yeah. To your point about as soon as you move outside the lane, the sounding board thing kind of disappears.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be the true test over the next few years, whether or not technology can advance to be that sounding board.
Yeah. And so that leads us, I want to pause and just invite anyone who's watching. It's Thursday afternoon on the East Coast. I'm with John Malanowski, and we're talking about bots, human resources, and coaching. We'd love to hear from you. If you've had experience with bots, what your field is, whether you're in the HR space, coaching space, or any other professional area, how bots are being used or where you think they may be used in your profession, please share in the comments, and we'll share them here and we'll talk about them. Also, if you have any questions or concerns about this topic, or you're afraid it's going to affect your job, can I be replaced by a bot? I know, kind of building on what you just talked about, the coaching profession, right now coaching is a profession with, 25, or actually more than that, probably 50,000 plus, certified professional coaches around the world, and a lot more people who call themselves coaches. Right now, coaching is a multi-billion-dollar industry, globally. And I think there's a lot of coaches who think, oh my goodness, am I going to be replaced by a bot? And I think you hit the nail on the head that there are certain ways that technology can facilitate, growth, development, skill acquisition. And I believe, or I still believe, maybe, again, it might change in 3 or 5 or 10 years, that there are some nuances and connections and the relationship of having, a thought partner, an honest broker, an advocate, and someone who understands your history and your personality, who can help you continue to grow and develop. Some of that will be difficult to replace. Again, I'm not a machine learning expert, and yet that piece of trust and relationship, and having this kind of talk, unless I'm really a bot, unless maybe I'm already a bot, right? Like the Matrix, maybe I'm not really, but I think having, even though so much of coaching is done over this kind of technological platform, there's still something that, I'm seeing you, I can see your smile and your facial expression. You can see me in my messy office and, my dog and things like that. That's how we build kind of connections. So we can go on that tangent, or, another question that I want to talk, you shared about benefits and we've talked about coaching. Where else are bots either already having an impact, or do you see growing to have more of an impact in the HR space or in the the talent leadership people space?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's a few areas. Recruiting comes to mind immediately. A lot of the candidate development pieces are qualifying questions. And I've been in situations where a bot is actually screening and referring then my resume, to say it that way, to a recruiter.
Right.
But the bot is also reaching out to the candidate. And I've seen this live where the bot will say, "Hi, I'm Vivian, and I am the virtual candidate developer for recruiter Mary Smith at XYZ Corporation. Mary would like to schedule you for an interview. Can we have access to your calendar?" And the bot has access to the calendar. And so, long story short, when Mary Smith walks in the beginning of the week, her calendar is already populated by the bot with interviews.
Right.
So that's great. I mean, that saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of back and forth on phones for scheduling. And so candidate development, candidate initial screening, interview process, I think is a great application for a bot. There's some great technology companies out there that are actually working to facilitate that process. And they've probably made some more improvements since I've last looked into it that really help speed things along even more.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example where that use facilitates greater, it expedites a fairly labor-intensive process, and then it enables the recruiter or the vice president of talent acquisition or that whole division to be focusing much more strategically, as opposed to managing those more administrative tasks. Now, I guess from an employment standpoint, does that bot replace your recruiting coordinator?
Absolutely, in my opinion. Or the recruiting coordinator job would morph into something that's more productive, to say it that way. Not that they're not productive, but the jobs morph over time. You'll need somebody to interface with the tech company. I think the roles change.
Right.
I had the same question for my benefits administration people. They weren't mine, but you get the point. I mean, so I do enrollment. I answer employee questions. With this bot, am I being replaced?
Right.
Actually, our lead Ben admin person actually was in charge of the implementation.
Yeah.
So her job expanded and was enriched. And I think the same thing could be in recruiting or some of the other areas. You can enrich people's job, give them new skills, and actually help them grow in the process.
Right. So we got our first question, and before I'm going to share it, if you're watching on any platform, please put your questions in the comments and we will respond to them. We're live now on Thursday afternoon, October 22nd, but even if you're watching this and it's been recorded, we will come back and revisit any questions. So we have a question here from Bill Hyman. Do you know if there has been much research done with respect to employee satisfaction and or return on investment with respect for HR services, especially coaching related to bots? So I know Bill Hyman, he's a former CHRO, so it's not a surprising question. So do you have any? I actually don't know. I don't know about this. I have not found that. The lead up to this, I was looking at, kind of some coaching related to bots, and the coaching space and what what I'm seeing is it's still fairly that tactical piece, and some of the coaching companies are combining bots with real coaches, but I have not seen any ROI data on that. Have you with any areas related to bots?
Yeah, it's a great question, and thanks, Bill, for asking. If you look at Google bots in HR, for example, you'll get a whole plethora of information on ROI savings from the bot company working with customers. So the bot organizations have ROI information and data. They also have tons of information relative to enhancing the employee experience for bots.
Right.
Because, access to bots can help with policy questions. It can be 7x24 HR services.
Right.
So depending upon how you do it, there's a lot of information out there to answer your question. Our benefits enrollment was seamless, pretty seamless. That's the only piece of information I have relative to data.
Right. Great. Thank you, Bill, for asking a great question. And any other questions, please send them. We love hearing questions. I have a comment from Deb Zahal. I can see both advantages and disadvantages of bots, but I love the human interaction. And so, I think, from a coaching standpoint in that space, that is the power of the relationship. And, I am open to the technology and curious to see how we can develop it, because I think one of the challenges in the coaching space right now is, over the last 20 years, as it's evolved and it's kind of moved down from the C-suite and then out of the, I've been in the coaching world since the late 90s, and in the beginning there was some concern. Oh, I'm getting a coach because they think I'm not good enough. Like in the beginning, it was a fixing, modality or mentality with coaching, and now, over the last 5 years, everyone wants a coach, and the challenge often is around cost, and so the use of bots in certain coaching function could enable there to be broader use of coaching, and I'm just making this up. I don't know, how this is going to evolve, but that personal touch, that Deb's talking about, it may be able to spread it further if the technology is used in a way that we can harness the power of the tasks, the repetitive tasks that really can function well with the technology, and expand the use of some of that interpersonal relationship. So I get it. Obviously, HR is, a lot of people who chose to be in the HR world, or most of us, that relationship drives what we do, because we want to make that organization and the people in that function at its best. So thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, to your point, we got in this, us HR professionals, to say it that way, got into this because, we prefer the human interaction. And the way I like to think about it, and it's nirvana, but if technology can free me up to have more of those conversations and really focus my CHRO type coaching in the chair as a coach of the executives and leaders and building programs for the organization, bots can free me up from all the other stuff that we have to deal with, and hopefully will enrich my role and make my contribution that much more meaningful to the organization.
Yeah. So
yeah, go ahead.
You go.
What's interesting to your point about, everybody wants a coach. So I was talking to the CEO of a HR tech company the other day, and he uses bots, but what he was saying is more and more organizations want their employees to mentor other employees. It's a big push for mentoring and career development, especially given the demographics of certain organizations and, the multi-generational demographics. And what he was saying is a bot could potentially make the introductions, if I've got a database where I went to Michigan State University and I've been at the company for X number of years and these are my interests, bots can make those introductions to help current employees mentor new employees, onboard new employees, or mentor existing employees and just create connections and then see where it goes from there. So I think that's an area that can be developed with bot technology. To the point about everybody wants a coach. Well, we'll find coaches for you internally and use, bot to help identify those relationships.
So the coach in me can't be quiet on that comment. You know that.
Right.
So I always have to point out the distinction. So, and this is interesting because how I answer this, you might be able to put this back into bot content.
I think I know where you're going, but go ahead.
So mentoring and coaching are very different in my work.
Yes, they are.
And, a mentor in general, and now there are, like you talked about, the multi-generational. So mentor no longer, up until, recently, mentor usually was older, more experienced professional supporting, younger, more junior professional, helping them on their path, whether it was a similar path or, a parallel path or, maybe tangential. But usually I have wisdom, let me share it with you, and you can use it to help you on your path. Now mentoring obviously is much more two-way, where, there are, professionals in their 20s and 30s who are mentoring, people in their 50s and 60s and 70s in other areas. And as our workplace, one of my favorite books that I always sell and share, and I think I shared it with you, is The 100-Year Life, when we're going to have people in their 70s and 80s plus in the workforce, that mentoring two ways is going to be really important. But mentoring, as I think known in kind of the HR space, is usually around that wisdom and experience transfer. So me as a professional coach, where I come in, that's very different from mentoring. It's this facilitative process that helps people understand their own strengths, skills, gaps, enhances their self-awareness, and then helps them make the best decisions for them. So I don't need to have walked your path or to be an expert on your field. I pay attention to your strengths, your language, your thoughts, and help you, take the right action, think the right way meaning the right way for you, do the right things. Again, when I use right, it's always what's right for the leader or the person I'm working with or my team is working with. And that takes a lot of trust and intimacy and knowledge and awareness. And so there's the coaching relationship that can happen between employees, and yet there's a big distinction between the professional coach coming in and facilitating, really powerful development and growth. So that's me speaking from my coaching profession. So that nuance.
Yeah, no, you're right. And, people don't understand nuances, because I had that conversation with the CEO, and people are interchanging mentoring and coaching.
Yeah.
Which puts the obligation on the team rolling out the technology to make that distinction.
Yeah.
And make it really clear, because, you'll have people running around saying I'm coaching somebody, and it's really a mentoring relationship.
Right. And so some of that is semantics. This is like, that's like kind of coach, like, what is it? Nails down the blackboard. Like when coaches have a tendency, when we hear those distinctions not clear, we can't shut up. So right. You get it. I appreciate it. But since it's just it's an important distinction. And now we got another comment that someone said, Deb, thank you for still being here and sharing some great thoughts. She said, for sure, onboarding could be bot driven.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Before I had started my coaching and training business, I was in HR, and I actually was responsible for onboarding, mentoring program, performance management, and then I moved into a coaching role internally in the HR space, and that repeatable process of onboarding, it was very structured, and we had the onboarding manual. Everyone had to go through a lot of the same stuff, and so now especially in the COVID world where, you're not going in and getting your computer and, getting a tour of the office. So much of it can be, and, where's that personal piece needs to be in that mix also. So it sounds like we've got onboarding, we've got benefits, we've got EAP. Other spaces we're not.
There's a school of thought around training, making training more interactive with bots. That's probably course by course, but again, training is probably one area I'd want to explore more in terms of just-in-time, content-driven training. How can I leverage bots to, do training?
Yeah, and I think some of that is already happening. Especially with this concept of micro learning.
Yep.
And teaching real time. Actually, one of my clients is the CEO of a global company who is looking at how they teach kind of frontline workers, a lot of customer service folks, new skills that they can incorporate. And it is all. I'm holding my hand like this because you know what this means. It means it's happening on your phone, right? This holding my hand like that, right? Yep. So it's happening, on their phone, real time, or in a 5-minute break between phone calls, that kind of stuff. So I think some of that, it's now going more widespread. You and I were talking right before here because I was reading another article just about the training, what's going to be happening in the training industry, and this could be a whole other call. A whole other conversation, but the use of you said got to see some of it. The concept of holograms in training, and having not real people in a room together, or a virtual room, and learning in all sorts of ways that we probably can't even imagine yet. So I don't know if you want to share some of the cool things you've seen.
Yeah, someday you're going to be sitting across the table from me, and we're going to be having this conversation. I'll be talking to your hologram, and you'll be talking to my hologram.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it really is. And, imagine walking into a room with a virtual file folder you can just pull out and, through holographic technology, drop a file onto your desktop or onto your phone.
Yeah. It's so weird. Like, so this in itself, I think, is really, like, you even saying that it's hard to understand. Like, it's hard to comprehend that. Like, literally, I'm trying to think what that's going to look like. And people weren't thinking this 5 years ago about bots and kind of the place and space. And people also weren't worrying about losing their job to this.
Right.
Maybe 5 years ago they were. 10 years ago, probably not. So maybe let's look at. Can we flip to the other side? So we've been talking about all these opportunities and the benefits. What are the things that HR decision makers and leaders should be worried about around this?
Yeah, good question. I think HR has to keep pace with the technology, to say it that way, and it's going to really stress the organization to make sure that any changes in the business, the bots can keep up with it. Whatever process, whatever tools you're using, however your business transforms as you grow the business, as you work through it, the technology's got to keep up with it. I also think there's some data privacy issues.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that people are comfortable, and through benefits enrollment, you've got the necessary parameters in place, but there's a data privacy concern. I also think that there's some legal concerns. What do I mean by that? I'll go back to the benefits piece for a minute. Our bot could not recommend, well, given all you said, this is the plan I recommend for you, for a lot of reasons. And depending upon the applicability of the bot, whether it's benefits or answering policy questions, you've got to be very, very careful to make sure that the bots are scripted. And I'm not a tech person, but I think you understand, scripted to make sure that any options that the bot is giving you, whether it's employee policy, benefit enrollment, or training options, don't create legal concerns for the organization.
Right.
Those are the three things that come to mind.
Wow. Yeah. So, that's interesting. Yeah. I just someone just posted, when we were talking about all these, it blows my mind, like that concept of, and I think that's, even when you described all those, I'm thinking, oh, think of the new positions that, we were talking earlier about the new careers in HR. There's going to be, yes, some, that recruiting coordinator who's used to doing the scheduling, that role may go away, but there's going to be the, the data privacy coordinator, or, something else that's going to expand and change. So that, I think that's I think a bigger workforce question is, the fear of bots and just changing, not just human resources and coaching, but, as we can use this technology, does this diminish the workforce, or does it just create new opportunities for a different level of skilling of talent that we need to be thinking about?
Yeah. I'd like to think it's going to create opportunities for people. I think, number one, I like to think about, whether it's bots or anything else we do in the profession, what problem are you trying to solve? And is the technology the right answer for the business problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of opportunities for bots and artificial intelligence to enable the business faster, cheaper, for all the reasons we talked about. But I always come back to what business problem you're trying to solve, and engage the workforce, engage the team in helping you try to solve that, and pursue the technology angle. I think the HRIS administrator turns into a bot administrator at some point too.
Good. New title. Get out that new business card.
Something like that.
So I'm going to pause to see if there's more questions, comments. Please, whatever platform you're watching us on, feel free to ask questions about bots, HR, coaching. Share your experience if you've had interactions with bots that were great or that weren't so great, that leaves you, questioning kind of bots in these fields or any fields you're in. I have a question. When we think for the HR professional, and I can answer it from the coaching professional, what would you, so if you were mentoring, here, we'll give the mentoring question. How would you mentor, what advice would you give for the mindset of, your fellow CHROs, your fellow HR, leaders and decision makers, as we move into this, new territory, as technology is going to impact the field? What advice would you have around mindset?
It's a great question. I'm a fan of technology. I would say embrace the technology, look for options to leverage technology. There's a lot of great technology out there. Let's find a way to enable the business versus replace people. I mean, if you start from that place, I think it's the wrong place. And work with, the organization to determine the ROI on the investment. And embrace the tech, because it's going to be here. It's here already. There's great tools out there, and embrace it.
And so thinking that's awesome. And I think that's kind of my mindset. I think when I first started hearing, probably a couple of years ago, some folks at Google who work in the coaching space, I was on a workshop and they were talking about, what they're doing with coaching and trying to, integrate this kind of technology. My first reaction was fear. Oh my God, am I only going to have 4 or 5 years left of my career because I'm going to go out, like no one's going to need me and my team of coaches. That was like the initial reaction. And then I got curious about it. And now I see it as it's happening. And so I see people putting their heads in the sand in the coaching space. Oh, I don't want to, if I just kind of keep doing what I'm doing, it's not going to affect me. And I think that's not as, if I was coaching a leader, I would never, ask a question to help them facilitate putting their head in the sand, right? It'd be like, okay, this is happening. What do you need to do differently? what's like the question I asked you, what's the right mindset to manage through this? And so I personally think speaking as the coaching profession and really the leadership development profession, and as an external provider now, before I was internal many years ago, but as an external consultant, it's how do I be aware of how organizations are using bots and technology and AI, and then be aware of it and understand the distinctions of, so I can be the expert for that organization. Yes, you could use bots for this. You want, some skill development at this level. Yes, you don't have to pay this for a coaching program. You could do this, but where I'm most valuable and where we could come in and really make the difference is here. So really the opportunity is to really sell your distinction. So for what that's worth. So we got a couple more comments and questions. So Daryl Vaughn said, interesting. I can see using bots to crowdsource employee populations for ideas and input. This is a way to leverage the collective brain power within our organization. Yeah. I think
it's great. No, sorry. It's a great comment. There's crowdsourcing tools now like Slack, for example, that organizations use, but I'm sure somebody's thinking about it. It's a great insight.
Yeah. Well, I've seen, the organizations who are doing, employee pulse surveys daily, or, it might have started weekly, but now, how are you, or using it team-based, especially with COVID, where people are, a lot of people are still working remotely, and, some of that day-to-day interaction is gone. It's more important if you can't be physically present to connect. So most definitely could be that. Now, here's another good comment from Bill again. I remember that a former CHRO that I worked for was committed to putting human or high touch back into human resources. It's unclear to me what employees want. Faster, cheaper versus the more personal, caring approach. Well, I have thoughts on that, but what do you think?
It depends on the issue, to say it that way. I think the administrative processes that are extremely important, the repeatable, predictable, transparent processes that we all build, can be enabled by technology. But in my mind, there's nothing like sitting down with somebody and helping them resolve a business problem. I would do that all day, as opposed to answering what's my PTO eligibility.
Right.
I can answer that question. So I've got 100 phone calls that I've got to return this week. If 50 of those can be displaced through technology, and then I've got more time to talk to people.
Well, it's funny. I teach in one of our programs, we teach a module. It's called Be a Great Boss. And one of the themes we talk about, and I share this I'd say in 20 years of working as a coach, and before that in HR, no manager ever came to me and said, my boss gives me too much feedback. And now generationally, and kind of the dynamic of the workforce and who's in the workforce, people want more of that. They want to know how they're doing. They want more opportunities. They want connection. They want purpose and meaning in their work. Besides, they want a salary and, challenge and skill building. And so if even pulling this out of the HR and coaching space, but looking at it as, I'm a manager, and, I have my job and my, the stuff I have to do every day. And I have, my people I need to develop. If I can get some of that process related stuff that, falls in under my responsibility, replaced with, this kind of technology, and I can have those more meaningful conversations, that's not going to only be good for you as the person who likes that. You're going to be elevating, not only the productivity, and you're going to be elevating productivity, engagement, retention. So that to me is the magic of this, if it can be used. It's funny when you said, oh yeah, you don't want to talk about PTO. But if you're on the other end of that, you want to make sure you're getting those right numbers. So
absolutely,
we have to make sure the bot technology is good. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So here's a question, and then we're going to do one more question, and then we're going to ask. You and I will both share kind of our big takeaway for whatever that is, or a final thought. But Deb had a great question. If a company wants to become more progressive by utilizing bots, do you see the bots entering the HR recruiting space first? So that's.
They're already there, and if you want to DM me offline, I can give you a couple of recommendations. But there's a couple of good companies out there that are dominating the recruiting space, and that's an easy point of entry. Honestly, I love recruiting, and it helps with candidate engagement. It speeds up the recruiting process significantly. The bot can say, by the way, I'm Nancy Bot from the HR organization. Welcome to XYZ candidate experience, and so, yeah, I think that's a great natural point of entry for bot technology. The other one is benefits enrollment, as I talked about earlier.
Yeah. Super. So, final thoughts as we wrap this up. Our theme was bots, HR, and coaching. I want you to have the last word, so I'll just share kind of my, as kind of coming from the coaching space. Technology isn't going away. This is an exciting time and place to be in that. I think this technology will allow for elevated, intimate conversations, and looking at, as if you are a coach or if you are looking to bring coaching into the organization, it's important to understand the distinction of what can't be replaced, at least now. Who knows? Check back with us in 3 and 5 and 10 years, right? So it's important both, I think, from an HR standpoint, as you're looking at, some of the organizations who are trying to sell bot, coaching, automated, AI induced, facilitated coaching, understand the impact that it's going to have, the pros and cons. In certain places, it's going to save you money and it's going to do what you need. In other places, it's going to leave people high and dry and disappointed, and not get you the results you want. So it's really important, if you're bringing coaching and technology into your organization, to understand kind of the power of that personal, professional relationship of a human, and then what technology can actually facilitate. If you are a coach, I'd say don't shy away from this. It's not going away. Look at how you can work with it and really distinguish yourself, your business, and understand, the nuances of what coaching is and what it can be and what it doesn't need to be. So you can make those distinctions when you're going into organizations and working with their talent. So that's the coaching end. What about you on the HR space or any space?
Yeah, great final thought, Julie. Thank you. I think, as I think about it and listening to your comments, given the workforce today, a lot of people working remote, has just accelerated the implementation of technology in my mind.
Yeah.
And I go back to embracing technology. We've got to find a way as a collective profession to embrace the technology to support a remote workforce. And, a lot of that face-to-face that is so important is going to be replaced by technology because people are not going back into the office in many cases. And so how do you work with technology to, I want to say, simulate the face-to-face? There'll never be a simulation of the face-to-face because, to your point about coaching, and we didn't talk a lot about EAP, but there's nuances in employee behavior and facial expressions and what somebody isn't saying that's really, really important. So the more we can use the technology to support a global remote workforce, I think employee engagement is going to increase. The employee experience is going to increase because now I've got a 24/7 HR shop that I can get answers anywhere, anytime from my phone or my laptop, on the beach or in my office or in my house in Nashville. And so, I just think there's a ton of opportunity with technology. It doesn't replace us, but I would hope that it makes us more effective as a profession.
Excellent. I agree. And I think if I was going to change the banner, it'd be "Don't fear the bots," right?
Yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much. It's lovely. It's great to talk to you in front of our viewers, and it's great to talk to you at any time. So hopefully you'll come back, and we'll honestly, just wrapping this up, there's so many tangents. We were talking about this concept of work from anywhere, the issue of just real estate. What's going to happen to the real estate industry, or what do organizations need to do with their real estate now that we were able to make this pretty massive change to the remote work space without as much trouble as people thought. So, there's so many conversations that can jump off of this, but I want to thank you for your time. It was awesome talking to you. And I thank everyone who is watching, who is with us live and who will continue to watch. Please be well, and we'll see you here next week. Actually, I'm speaking with executive coach Colleen Bracken, and we're talking about trust as a leadership superpower. So take good care, everybody. And thanks again, John.
You're welcome, Julie. Thank you.